So I'll set the scene for you. An evil dictator is on the brink of making a nuclear bomb at a secret facility carved deep into the Zagros Mountains. With no option, the American military deploys jets and against all odds destroys the factory and then flies home to the strains of Highway to the Danger Zone. An evil dictator is on the brink of using a nuclear bomb. With no option, the American military deploys secret agents and against all odds triggers a democratic revolution by blowing up the dictator in his helicopter to the strains of Katy Perry's Firework. I've just outlined the plots of Top Gun Maverick from last year, starring Tom Cruise, and The Interview, starring Seth Rogen. These parallels, though, these also describe real-world aspirations here towards Iran and North Korea from top policymakers across NATO countries. And these parallels are no coincidence because each film was actually subject to script changes imposed by Washington, D.C. In the documentary Theatres of War, we show how the CIA and Defense Department have exercised editorial control over thousands of films and television shows in exchange for lending equipment like helicopters to producers to use on screen. Such films reflect and construct the paranoid fantasies of our imperial masters, most of them with direct script input. Iran taking Western hostages in Ben Affleck's Argo. Kindly Marines unjustly slaughtered just for the crime of handing out grain to hungry Africans in Black Hawk Down. US politicians too innocent to realise that arming Islamic terrorists will lead to 9/11 in the Julia Roberts hit Charlie Wilson's War. And the Gerard Butler film Kandahar, upcoming, in which an evil dictator is on the brink of manufacturing a nuclear bomb at a secret facility carved deep into a mountain with no option and against all odds, blah, 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 blah. Is it any wonder that 30% of Americans in a poll said that they wanted to bomb Agrabah, the capital city in Disney's Aladdin? Is it any wonder that our politicians, as though clutching rosary beads, prefigure Russia's invasion of Ukraine with the word illegal, with no sense of irony, and unprovoked with no sense of history? When was the last thing you saw depicting Russia which didn't have it crawling with tyrants? Red Dawn, Rambo, Air Force One, Hunter Killer, James Bond, Jack Ryan, 24, Homeland, Stranger Things, the 6 o'clock news. We need a peace movement whose eyes are open to how actively the media, including Hollywood, simplifies wars in favour of America's perspective. The US government has suppressed scripts, but on others it has overturned their original messages. In the Iron Man screenplay, perhaps the most famous Marvel film, Robert Downey Jr.'s hero was opposed originally to his father's arms business. But after rewrites with the DoD, he became the ultimate evangelist for a bloodless industry and says, peace means having a bigger stick than the other guy. For 4 decades, almost all script changes had been suppressed until our team used the law, Freedom of Information Act, to acquire large bundles of government documentation. Regardless, the Defense Department's entertainment boss compared his role in the court of Hollywood to that of a minor eunuch. This from a man who controlled hundreds of titles, including 12 of the top 10 grossing franchises of all time. More control than Steven Spielberg. His army of little Hitlers have ensured that none of the scripts passing their desk depict American war crimes, coups, assassinations, torture, or indeed anything that, quote, reminds the public of the nasty conspiracies in which America has engaged. Now, Hollywood, producers, and celebrities are perfectly capable of being terrible on foreign policy issues without state interference. Consider Benedict Cumberbatch, who played the WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange in the 2013 film Fifth Estate. Assange tried reasoning with Cumberbatch in advance, saying that the studio will use him as a hired gun to assume the appearance of the truth in order to assassinate it. But Sherlock scoffed, "As if I'm an easily bought cipher for right-wing propaganda. And I've worked far less hard for more money on other projects." Cumberbatch demurred when asked to oppose the 35-year prison sentence for Assange's colleague Chelsea Manning, pontificating, "Isn't it hypocritical to say we should know everything about you as a government, but the government can't know anything about us?" Curiously, while Fifth Estate presents Assange as a shifty egotist, it is Cumberbatch who claimed there is only personal truth and wanted to play the Assange lead because "I'm a vain actor." Acclaimed as a peerless journalist, Assange has entered his 5th year in Britain's highest security prison without trial on a Byzantine set of espionage charges. Assange used incontrovertible documentation to expose US massacres, sadistic detention procedures, corporate suppression of data on global warming, and the Democrats' backroom machinations to destroy their own socialist presidential candidate, Bernie Sanders, in favour of the less popular hawk, Hillary Clinton. Those intimately involved in Assange's case, some of whom I've spoken to, say that the state has meted out torture, which includes giving him a computer to conduct his defence with all the keys superglued down, and also falsely diagnosing him with HIV. And where was Cumberbatch during the middle of all of this? Making The Courier, whose production was supported from the outset by the CIA and which mangled Cold War history to hype the threat from Moscow. Cal Surprise, Rock versus Slime. Or consider the state affiliations of another nice celebrity, Sacha Baron Cohen, aka Ali G and Bruno. Cohen's production company claims that they lied to get into the US military base in Alabama, but the scenes there feel very staged, setting up Cohen's character Bruno for a series of one-liners. Cohen apparently escaped the military base by squeezing under a rapidly closing gate, while guards yelled in pursuit, a la 18. Another time, Bruno interviewed a terrorist discovered through Cohen's CIA contact. This was in fact a Palestinian greengrocer who Cohen told him the interview would be about his peace activism, not about his vegetables, but even so. The resultant court case was settled for an undisclosed sum. In fact, in Israel, this isn't well known, Bruno, Cohen's character, was actually beaten by a crowd of homophobic Israelis who, angered at his camp clothing, started to stone him on camera. And for the first time ever, Sacha Baron Cohen broke character. He desperately yelled that he was an Israeli Jew, not a homosexual foreigner, and fled for his life. The footage, though, has never emerged, even though it would presumably highlight racism, supposedly what Sacha Baron Cohen is all about in his comedy. Wrong racists. Call this propaganda, soft censorship, call it threat construction, call it just misguided, whatever it is. These kind of attitudes shape our foreign policy, and it is ridiculous. In 2003, the Americans said that Iraq had 5,000 tons of mustard gas, but after 13 years of sanctions, we didn't even find mustard. This spring, the Americans invoked the terror of China's spy balloon. Gee, I hope the Chinese don't send any more party paraphernalia our way. I'd hate for them to make us sit on a whoopee cushion. Come in.
Yeah.
Of course, outside the political fiction projected in the blue glow of our spooky little monitors, there is a real threat, and it is us, our hubris. On Ukraine alone, leaks by people of conscience indicate casualties approaching 500,000 in a deadlocked war, And yet still we insist that we officially weaken Russia and, it seems, detonate our own oil supply and bring the fight to Crimea, and, if appearances are to go by, kill the leader of our enemy country. Even foreign relations specialist John Mearsheimer, propelled to fame by his opposition to this war, does so on the grounds that we should be allying with Moscow to threaten China, oafishly asserting a couple of days ago that if we don't, Beijing will end up stationing missile systems in Mexico and Canada to threaten the United States. Ours is a demented political culture, egged on by hubristic visions of our own righteousness. We urgently need to be a purposeful peace movement with our eyes open to how the media holds diplomacy in abject contempt. Thanks.